What if Nemesis was in Divine Knockout? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's what this video is for. Let's get into it. Here's a little bit of things you need to know about Nemesis. One, she's from the Greek pantheon and she's the goddess of vengeance. That alone tells you that she's going to be a great addition to Divine Knockout. She's going to be super deadly. In Smite, she's an assassin, melee, and physical damage dealer. So obviously, that's what she's going to be in Divine Knockout. We just got to twist and see what abilities would fit her perfectly. Now, thanks to Weapon Mojo, who actually left a comment on the first What If video about Fenrir, he actually took his time to break down what he believes Nemesis would be like in Divine Knockout. So I took a look at it and read it, and I was like, okay, I might make a little tweaks here and there to what he said, so we're about to find out what she would be like in Divine Knockout. Nemesis's first ability is going to be her mobility ability. Wow, that by itself was a whole mouthful. Now in Smite, it's called Swift Vengeance. Nemesis dashes in a line, dealing damage to enemies in a path, and may dash again within 2 seconds. She may use basic attacks and abilities between dashes. Now I actually think this double dash would fit very well in Divine Knockout, but you would need to twist it. Obviously we have a character with a double dash. Well, he puts himself into a lightning ball with Surge and hits his opponents twice, which is Zeus, and it adds a knockback. However, for Nemesis, it's going to be totally different. As with Weapon Mojo, he pointed out something very interesting, stating that Nemesis's whole kit is going to be based around slowing your opponent so you can keep them close to you. Now with that being said, we're expecting Nemesis to have 2 dashes right now. So when she's on the ground and she dashes, if she connects with somebody, then she's going to apply a slow to them and do a little bit of damage. You're obviously going to be able to attack while you're dashing, which is pretty cool. So you're just going in a straight line and you're swinging your weapon around. Now if you catch them with a second dash, what I think would be really cool is it still applies the normal slow as the first one. However, I would love to add maybe a divine trait or a minor trait for her specifically, where if you hit them with the second one, it extends the slow to double the time. That would actually be pretty cool. Now with that being said, that covers her first ability, and we're now going to go into her second ability, which is actually interesting. It's ability called Slice and Dice and Smite. For this ability, Nemesis swings her blades, dealing damage in an area in front of her. Enemies in the center of her swing is struck 2 times damage and slowed for 2 seconds. So obviously again, you're seeing slows. So what I think would be very perfect here is when we have her in the game, she does the same thing. She does this massive cone damage in front of her. Maybe she has this cool animation where she flies up in the sky just for a second and goes boof, which automatically applies a slow and dazes people like Loki's dagger. That would actually be pretty cool. Or it could be a stun, who knows. I think it would be better for a daze, so you're slowed and you can't really see anything. And every time she does damage to you while you have this effect on you, it does maybe 2 times damage or 1.5 damage. So she's obviously an assassin based character. Now that covers her first 2 abilities. So we're going to go into her third ability, which is going to be called Retribution. Now this is interesting. And in Smite, Retribution, Nemesis activates a temporary shield around herself that protects her from a set amount of damage, or until time expires. A percentage of the incoming damage from gods is healed and reflected back to the source. That by itself is really interesting. Now I know if you're a Divine Knockout player, you're obviously thinking of Athena's parry shield. Now parry shield actually works to parry and attack and knock people back. Nemesis' shield is going to work totally different in Divine Knockout. What we would expect for you to imagine this scenario. So you have an Amaterasu, and the Amaterasu is getting pounced on and destroyed in terms of vulnerability because she can't just get away from Nemesis. However, she finally sees an opportunity and launches herself towards Nemesis, and Nemesis pops her shield. It doesn't parry the attack. However, it reduces her knockback distance. It also allows her to absorb the damage as a temporary shield, just like it said, but also healing her up. And when it's about to expire, what would actually be pretty cool is it explodes, slowing enemies within the range of her. So now the Amaterasu is slowed, but not only slowed, but dazed, as it's an explosion of light. So the enemies, again, like the same thing with Loki's dagger, it would keep the opponent confused as well as slowed and dealing a little bit of damage to them on the explosion. I think all this would make her shield very powerful. However, they would have to tweak it a bit to deal with the damage and stuff. But one thing you will notice about Nemesis's kit so far, yes, it's slowing enemies and keeping them close by as well as keeping them dazed. It's not really giving massive knockback potential. That's where you as Nemesis have to rely on your heavy attacks, your hold heavy attacks, and all those abilities to try to knock somebody out. So for her ultimate ability, it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be something similar to Might of Excalibur, but instead of having massive knockback, it's going to increase her movement speed buff her attack damage and allow her to apply slows on her enemies as she hits them. So again, she's on her opponents and they just can't get her off. And it's like, oh my gosh, get off me, Nemesis. But she's not letting up. And again, she doesn't have massive knockback, so this kind of balances off her character. Now, I want to say thank you again to Weapons Mojo for making this video possible, as he left a comment with some very great ideas about Nemesis. And that basically covers what if Nemesis was in Divine Knockout. Now, if you have ideas for her minor traits or traits in general, even if you have ideas about what if characters for Divine Knockout, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I will definitely read them, and if I think I have the time, I will definitely make a video about them as soon as possible.